should you start? And which players should stay on your bench? Welcome, football fans and fantasy freaks. It's Mitch here with your Week 4 fantasy football stardom and sit-em at every position. From quarterback through tight end, I give you 3 starts and 3 sits to hopefully help you win your matchup in Week 4. If you have any fantasy football lineup questions for Week 4, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to give you the best advice to win your week. If that sounds good, spike the like button, and let's get started. Let's go with Stardom, Sit-em, Week 4. Okay. At the quarterback position, we're going to kick it off with Geno Smith, who's been consistently in this video, because how I do my Stardom Sit-em is I'm oftentimes looking at fringe starts, fringe sits, not the every week locked and loaded players that everyone, it's obvious, yeah, you should start them. Or it's really obvious, yeah, you should sit them. No, Geno Smith is one of those quarterbacks so far this year that you have to have the confidence to actually put him in the lineup. Last week, it worked out. He lit the skies on fire against the Commanders, right? 3 touchdown performance. I believe he had over 300 yards. And this week, he has a great matchup against the Bears. They have allowed the most touchdowns in the NFL through the air. 8 passing touchdowns. This could be a shootout back indoors for Geno, where he's historically been fantastic. I think that against this depleted Chicago secondary, Geno will have plenty of success. Bo Nix. He plays the Bengals on Monday Night Football. It's at home in Denver. Denver is desperate for a big win and a big offensive performance. Their offense has struggled. Bo Nix has been inconsistent. You know what solves all inconsistencies in fantasy football? The Bengals defense. 6th most completions, 8th most yards allowed through the air. We all know how bad it is. I do believe that Bo Nix gets on track and delivers a multi-touchdown performance. Jordan Love versus the Dallas Cowboys. Sunday Night Football. You're going to be waiting all day to see Jordan Love absolutely destroy Dallas. Dallas has allowed the most passing yards so far this season, the only defense to allow 900 plus passing yards, and they've also done this on only the 19th most attempts. So Jordan Love is not a guy that does attempt many passes. They like to run the ball, stay balanced, play action. That's their offense. That's their formula. Explosives. Well, found out that Dallas, you don't really need a lot of attempts to have a lot of yards. So there you go. Perfect formula for Jordan Love. My quarterback sits. Let's begin with Dak Prescott on the other side against the Packers. The Packers have only allowed 3 passing touchdowns this year. Dak Prescott does not have CeeDee Lamb, his number 1 receiver, one of the best receivers in football, the weapon that is the gravitational pull of Dallas's offense. And Dak also is facing a defense that only 3 touchdowns, yet the 5th most attempts. It's basically the opposite of the Cowboys' defense. The Packers have a vicious pass rush, and Micah Parsons will be coming for Dak Prescott. Baker Mayfield versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Baker is facing an Eagles defense that has only allowed 3 touchdowns this year, the 7th least passing yards. He also has no Mike Evans. So no safety blanket, no number 1 target, no red zone weapon. He's facing a great secondary, a Vic Fangio defense, the best defense from last year. They're looking better and better this year. And yeah, the Eagles don't have Nolan Smith. He's on IR. And I understand that Baker could be getting Chris Godwin back, but he won't be at 100%. I'd sit Baker this week. I don't see the upside. I think others have more. Aaron Rodgers against the Vikings. I know that you're probably thinking, okay, Rodgers, he's playing on sort of a primetime window. I need to do something while this game is on at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific time. It's in Europe. It's in Dublin. I need to watch someone play, right? No, don't do it. Don't put Aaron Rodgers in your lineup. The Vikings are one of just 3 teams to allow less than 500 passing yards in 3 games, and they've only allowed 2 passing touchdowns this year in 3 games. That is the least in the NFL. The least, okay? Running back starts. We're going to go with Hampton, the rookie of the Chargers. I think he gets on track with a big game. Last week, we saw the receiving ability. This week, I think we see the rushing upside. The 5th most rushing yards allowed, the New York Giants. The 4th most fantasy points to running backs. And that includes playing a team like the Chiefs, who don't really utilize their running backs or run the ball particularly well. So that's a pretty good sample. The Giants were also terrible against the run last year. So this dates back all the way to last year. If there is a game for Hampton to go off, it is the Giants on the road, right? Chargers having to play in the early time slot. They're going to want to get the ground game going and establish their pace of play. You got J.K. Dobbins versus the Cincinnati Bengals. The 6th most rushing yards allowed to running backs this year, the Bengals on the ground. They've also allowed 5 total touchdowns to running backs, which is the 2nd most. A couple receiving, multiple on the ground. The Bengals give it up in every single way imaginable. Breece Hall versus Miami. The 5th most fantasy points allowed at the position. The Miami Dolphins. We saw James Cook have a beautiful day just last Thursday night. The 3rd most receiving yards, the 8th most rushing yards. Breece Hall's well-rounded. He'll catch the ball, he'll run the ball, and he will feast against the Dolphins. There aren't many matchups where the Jets could win, and there's also not many matchups where the Jets are going to score a lot of points this year, and this feels like one of them. So I would definitely start him. My running back sits. Ramondre Stevenson. Is he benched? Is he not? The fumble Rooski, the fumble problems. You gotta just think he's going to be benched. If we have reasonable coaching in New England, of course I'm a Patriots fan, then he should be benched because he fumbled multiple times and he basically cost them the game against Pittsburgh. They got Travion Henderson. They have Antonio Gibson. There's no reason for Stevenson to be featured, even against the Panthers, who allowed the 4th most yards in the NFL. Now, another key here is that Stevenson is the red zone back, the big back in the offense. The Panthers have only allowed 1 rushing touchdown. So the upside of the matchup is not exactly there for Stevenson if he doesn't get the same playing time. Then you have Hubbard against the Patriots on the other side. Patriots have allowed the 2nd fewest rushing yards in the NFL to the running back position. They've been stout against the run. And I do expect Carolina to fall behind in this game, which means probably not going to be a lot of running for Hubbard or space to run either. Isaiah Pacheco. This seems like a great matchup to start Pacheco. You're going to see number 1 on your fantasy site of choice, Yahoo, NFL, ESPN. It's the number 1 defense that gives up fantasy points to the running back. Oh, I should start Pacheco. Wrong. The Ravens, yes, they've allowed the most yards. Yes, they've allowed the most receptions. But Kansas City sucks at running the ball, and they don't want to run it at all. 3.7 yards per carry for Pacheco, 92 yards. That's it in 3 games, and only 4 catches. They're just not utilizing him enough. There's no purpose to put him in my lineup. So those are our running back sits. Wide receiver starts. I'm going with it. Trey Tucker. If you need him, if you picked him up, if you spent your fab, you should start him. He plays the Bears. The Bears have allowed the most touchdowns to wide receivers in professional football. Tucker, guess what? He had 3 last week, 4 total on the season. A guy that's scoring touchdowns against a defense that allows them sounds pretty good to me. Okay? Then you've got Golden, the 1st-round pick from the Packers, taking on Dallas. This could be his breakout game. Reed is out. Kraft is banged up. Dallas sucks against receivers and the pass. They've allowed the most yards and tied for the most touchdowns to wide receivers. If there was ever a week for Golden to go nuclear, it's against the team in Texas where he played in college. Michael Pittman Jr. versus the Rams. Speaking of playing somewhere in college, Los Angeles, Pittman, USC. This is a game for him against no big perimeter corner. The Rams have very small corners. Pittman is a big receiver. I expect him to feast in this matchup in a potential shootout in LA. He has 19 fantasy points or more in 2 of his last 3 games. It's a great matchup for Pittman there. Wide receiver sits. DK Metcalf. Sit him on the bench. Minnesota has held Drake London. Who's Dake London? Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins to a combined 11 catches for 134 yards and 0 touchdowns. Metcalf has kind of got fluky with the touchdowns, and every other target that he's had, other than a red zone fade, has been a screen. There's just nothing of substance in this offense. The Vikings have been awesome against just the pass this year, as I mentioned with Aaron Rodgers, right? With Aaron Rodgers, they've allowed only 2 passing touchdowns, which is the least in the league. So expecting DK to score a touchdown, not a lot of upside there, right? Calvin Ridley against the Texans. The Texans have very good cornerbacks. Stingley is questionable for this matchup. But the more important thing here, and the Texans have a great pass rush against maybe the worst O-line in football on the road, which is a problem, right? So Ridley might not even get targets because his quarterback's going to get hit and sacked so fast, it doesn't even matter. But Calvin Ridley has 27 yards. That's it in 2 of his 3 games. 27 in 2 games. The other game, he had under 60. So there's just no upside, no appeal, and it's maybe the best defense in football on the road. Travis Hunter against the 49ers. Is he even playing offense? Right? So we don't even really know. Parker Washington might be playing more than him. Brian Thomas, even with his shaken confidence. 5th least fantasy points allowed, the 49ers secondary. Also the 7th fewest yards to the wide receiver position. So 49ers have held receivers in check. Hunter has been unstartable all year, and now apparently he might be playing defense. I don't know what's going on with this guy. Tight end starts. TJ Hawkinson, I think it's a good start because the Steelers have allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends this year. Hunter Henry went off last week, right? And TJ Hawkinson found a little bit of a groove with Carson Wentz. Remember, Carson Wentz, one of his favorite targets in Philly, Zach Ertz, tight end, right? So I could see TJ Hawkinson continuing to play well, even with the return of Jordan Addison, because that's a preferred target in the middle of the field from Carson Wentz. All right. Travis Kelce takes on the defense that allows the 2nd most yards and receptions to tight ends. That's Baltimore. This makes sense because Baltimore, their linebacking core is not great in coverage right now, especially that 2nd linebacker, and they seem to vacate the middle of the field. So I think Kelce could have a touchdown. I think he could move the chains on 3rd down. I think Kelce could actually have a sneaky performance here with a lot of short receptions compiling up to moving the chains and sustaining the time of possession for Kansas City to keep Lamar on the sidelines. Hunter Henry against Carolina. Henry had a great game last week. He had a really good game in week 1. Now he plays the team that has allowed the most yards to tight ends this season, the Carolina Panthers. They have terrible linebackers. They just can't cover the tight end position. Hunter Henry continues to shine with Josh McDaniels and Drake May. The tight end sits. Zach Ertz versus Atlanta. The Falcons have allowed only 48 yards in 3 games to tight ends. 48. Only 6 catches. That's pretty good. Okay. Cade Otton versus Philadelphia. Otton's done next to nothing this year, and I understand people might want to start him because no Mike Evans. Godwin, is he playing? Is he not? I don't know. I think he kind of will, but we'll see. But Philly's been really good at limiting efficiency to tight ends. They've only allowed a 50% completion to tight ends, which is very low for that position, and then only 88 yards in 3 games. And that's despite playing Kelce and Jake Ferguson in 2 of the 3 games. So that's pretty good. And then David Njoku versus Detroit. The Browns tight end has yet to reach double digits in a game this season, finishing with 40 yards or less in every single game. When you watch the tape and you watch the team, feels like he's involved because they run a lot of 2 tight end sets, but yet he hasn't had that potency. And I don't expect it to happen against Detroit. I don't think Detroit's defense, which was very good against tight ends in 2024, they did slip up against Mark Andrews, but the Browns can't score points. I just don't see the appeal or the upside here. I'd prefer somebody else. Okay, those are my starts and sits for week 4 of the 2025 NFL season. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Gronk, spike the like button. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.